Welcome to Remembering You, a space for slowing down, seeing again, and gathering the parts of yourself that the world asked you to forget.
Each week, we wander through stories, ancient, personal, and collective, to explore how perspective changes everything. How what we look at and how we look can open doors to who we truly are.
Take a breath, feel your feet.
You've arrived.
Let's begin remembering you.
All right. Doo-doo. Off we go. What's the little theme song? There's a little kids cartoon.
Dun, dun, dun,
He,
dun,
off
dun,
we,
dun,
something
dun,
about
dun,
I'm
dun,
in our
dun.
favorite rocket ship, Little Einsteins.
Oh.
Little Einsteins. Here we go on another adventure.
No limits.
No.
Pushing past all the boundaries known to humanity. Breaking all barriers.
I am physically swimming through barriers right now.
Crashing through the glass ceiling.
Oh boy. Look at that. Yeah. Boundaries. We're going to talk about boundaries. What are boundaries?
Boundaries are the internal limits that define where I end and you begin, guiding what I am responsible for, what I allow, and how I remain connected without losing myself.
I like that. That's a great definition. There's a lot in that definition.
There's a whole lot in this definition.
I guess we're going to spend the next probably hour and a half unpacking that one, aren't we?
Let's see. Yes. Welcome back to Remembering You.
Yeah, welcome, y'all. It's we've been, what's the word I'm looking for? Not inadvertently, implicitly, sometimes explicitly talking about boundaries for the last several episodes. We've just been building up to, I think, a space where we can start to point at what's going on.
Boundaries are a big part of my personal experience and way of walking the path of self-actualization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And boundaries are also super complicated and not easy. And I think I have said countless amount of times over this last year, the only way to learn how to do boundaries is by doing boundaries. Mm-hmm. And realizing that it still isn't quite where maybe we want it to be.
Like our skill level in it or our capacity.
It's a process of, it's here. This is the line. Oh, no. I meant there's the line. Oh, no. Here's the line in the sand. That's what I really meant. Oh, no. Let's come back closer to me. Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's a process.
I didn't appreciate until recently, like really recently, the developmental reality of how you look is what you see sort of landscape.
Sure.
And so, in the same way that a little kid can't really understand, I don't know, global politics, for example, like it's not going to make any sense. Boundaries, we grow up in our understanding of boundaries and so then very naturally in how we use them. And I guess I just, even though I have known about ego development and developmental psychology for a very long time, I've just, for whatever reason, never put boundaries through that filter. And then, of course, in retrospect, I'm like, oh, well, duh. Why? Mm-hmm. So it's just been a mystery in a way.
I think my definition, until some of our conversations over the last couple of years, I would have defined boundaries from when I'm a child, I had boundaries defined for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now that I'm an adult, it's my responsibility to do that.
That's true. Yeah.
And that is very true. And I know some adults who have no idea of what healthy boundaries are.
No.
And it doesn't have to do with age.
No, yeah, just because you got a driver's license and, pay a mortgage does not mean you are healthy psychologically at all.
The capacity to have a clearly defined, this is me and this is not me,
Yeah.
harkens back to our ego development and the stages that we come through in our experience. And those frameworks help, not necessarily when I have worked with people here recently, I haven't been able to help them necessarily find a better sense of boundaries, but at least has given me an understanding as to why there may be some dysfunction or some deficit or even a hard no or resistant to any conversation, let alone feeling into boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah, they can be, well, because, I mean, depending on how resourced we are and where we're at developmentally, yeah, those kinds of conversations I imagine can feel really threatening or just overwhelming or too confusing to even just disorienting.
So in our most recent episode, it was a logical progression to step towards defining what is our experience with boundaries and how do we talk about it and explain it and what are some practical ways that it plays out in our lives.
Yes.
So let's do that.
Let's do it. So maybe it'd be helpful to put a few puzzle pieces in this picture that creates kind of a deeper understanding of boundaries. I think it would be helpful to ground this in some nervous system stuff, in some psychological territory. Of course, we all have a nervous system, and it tells us when boundaries are being honored or not. Generally, we could make three general buckets and say we've got this fight flight reactivity. When we're in that kind of space, our boundaries might be really rigid and defensive, and we're just armored. It's like, don't come near me. So we've got a strong no. That reactivity can feel like we're seeing things very clearly because it's so empowering. I mean, it also kind of feels shitty, but there's this way in which it can seem like this is a no and that is not okay and here's my line. It can seem like we have finally found our voice or whatever. And so that's like a sympathetic nervous system fight flight reactivity. And then we've got the opposite, which is just the collapse, the numbness. Maybe we dissociate. And so there is no boundary in that kind of space. Maybe it's just like, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't matter. There's nothing to do. It's just hopeless. We give up. And then in the middle way, the happy part that we want in the middle is we have boundaries. They're clear, but they, things and people and ideas and emotions can pass through them. So they're permeable and they're relational. So you said in your definition at the beginning, it is what creates our connectivity. It allows for a connectivity without collapsing. So I know where I am and I know where you are. And the boundaries are the medium by which we can stay both individuated and connected. And like a nervous system term for that would be a ventral vagal. That's when we're regulated and that's when everything is happy. And so if we only think about boundaries cognitively, then I think we're missing most of the picture. The nervous system piece, I think, is super important because it helps tell us how we can tell maybe what kinds of boundaries we're using. And it gives us another contact point. So it's not just an idea in our head, but they're genuinely a lived experience. They have to be. Otherwise they're just an idea. And because the body can tell before the mind. That part of our brain, the nervous system, is orders of magnitude faster than the cognitive mind. It might be our shoulders get tight or our stomach feels yucky, or we suddenly get just super tired and just zone out, or we're irritated way more than the context of the situation should call for. So there's some reactivity going on, and that'll all be felt somatically. Like that'll probably be the most intense part of our experience, far more than, I don't know, whatever kind of idea we might have running through our head.
Talking about the somatics and our felt experience around boundaries, it brings to mind one of the scriptures where Jesus says something that's kind of like, what? There's this passage in the gospel, Matthew chapter 10. Jesus responds to the disciples as they are being prepared to be sent out. And he says, if a town doesn't accept you, then leave that town.
Yeah.
First of all, it's fascinating. He didn't say, dig in your heels, like buckle down.
Go knock on everybody's door and
shout
refuse to leave.
louder, scream, get a bullhorn. Or a billboard. Or a skywriter.
Oh, yes, take out a billboard.
No, what he says is, if a town will not receive you, shake off the dust from your feet and leave. And so the idea is that there is some residue, there's dust from the city on your sandals.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take that with you. And so shake it off. So it is a relational boundary. It's recognizing that there is something that has been exchanged and I have it attached to me, a negative experience, being rejected. It's not my responsibility to try to force anything or argue anybody into my point of view. It's just kind of choose the way of peace and move along. Shake the dust off your feet.
Like the Taylor Swift song.
Shake it off.
Shake it up.
Shake it off. Good old T Swift.
I love the idea that Jesus and Tyler were just kind of singing the same sort of tune. Yeah, it's very wise.
It's something that is hard to accept at lower levels of development of our psyche.
No.
Keep moving. No, I'm going to fight. I'm going to make this happen. So much so that I was a part of a team once where things got really toxic pretty fast. I had a couple members of the team looking to me to lead them through the chaos. And I looked at them and I said, this is not my battle. This is not your battle. We just need to leave. And there was not understanding by them in that moment. They're like, why is Ryan wimping out? And it's like, no.
Not appropriate.
When things are to this extent of toxic, there's nothing to do but just walk away. Like you can pour all kinds of clean water into a cesspool and it doesn't change the fact that it's
still a cesspool.
Still Lake Scuzzamucky.
Well, I mean, you just think of, we've all felt that maybe somebody posts something online and it's just to us ridiculous or offensive or how could they or oh my God, and we've all felt that reactivity and maybe we want to comment or we want to try to convince them otherwise. Like that pull is so seductive. It's what the internet was. It's what it's fueled by, really. And so it's hard to know. And that is a boundary issue to get pulled into other people's world in that way. Knowing when to engage and when to walk away, I think, is a very hard thing.
Because our ego gets involved and we want to prove that we were right or we have the moral high ground or we want to gather support for our cause and take as many people with us.
Or we think maybe we'll do some good, maybe they're suffering, or it's a loved one that just keeps banging their head against that same damn wall. And, we want to try to talk some sense into them, or it's do an intervention. I mean, maybe not something as extreme as an intervention, but just, where's the line between offering genuine support and care for somebody and getting into fix-it mode or rescuer? It can be a subtle nuance that is, I don't know. I don't think there's really any way to learn that other than just making a whole bunch of mistakes and kind of missing the mark. You can't learn how to walk unless you fall down a whole lot of times. That's really how you learn to walk.
It's interesting being a leader, and I imagine folks out there in Radio Land, y'all are leaders in your own way and in your own places, whether that's family or work or community. You have opportunity to influence. And I know in positions of leadership that I've been in the past, I took that position and that influence and that responsibility really seriously.
Like when you were a camp leader, you mean?
All kinds of different
pastor
places,
and all the
places that I've been over the years. There is a place in my process that I have to feel through as a leader. What is my responsibility with leading, and then where is someone's responsibility with following?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Because it can get to a point where I am not leading, but I am prodding or cajoling or
dragging them by the scruff of their neck,
trying to persuade by all means necessary to get them to move.
No, not a good thing.
That doesn't work.
No.
Very quickly, when we are experiencing burnout, if you are a leader or part of a team and you have responsibility that you need to be pulling your weight, and if you find yourself having to pull more than your weight, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
And that's a practical, everyday moment of experiencing boundaries of, this isn't my responsibility. This is.
Well, and in the corporate environment, that can get so confusing because your reputation, let's say you have a leader who has this expectation that you should be doing X, Y, Z. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not appropriate. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice time with my kids because, I don't know, there's some meeting tomorrow that you think we need to make this new deck for, or whatever. And to say no to the person who controls your bonus or maybe the pay raise or whether or not you still continue to work there. Like when it's tied to your sense of financial security and your professional reputation, the boundaries get really, really hard.
I had a supervisor one time that had this unspoken expectation that the team was checking their emails throughout the evening.
Yeah. Ugh.
Their work email.
Fuck that.
And it was just like,
no,
when I get home, and I had a work cell phone at the time, and that company phone, I would leave it on.
Sure.
If I was on call, but I would not be checking my emails.
No.
If it was an emergency, someone could call me. But it took a good amount of time to come to that place of saying, oh, this is not healthy for me, and I need to be clear of what is good for me and what's not good for me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in my job description.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, there are some jobs that is a genuine requirement, and that's different because then you're
clear.
You know what you're signing up for. Yeah. So maybe, do we want to talk a little about kind of how boundaries change developmentally, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think what you're naming, it's hard when you're younger. I mean, it can be hard when you're older, even if you just didn't learn the developmental lessons. But it's always hard when you're younger, let's say 20s, just getting into your first job, because you're just getting out of childhood in a way. And, you know, you went to college and now you got your degree, maybe not. But you're in your first job. So you're like in the adult world now. And your whole life up until that point, you went through the process of socialization. And so you know how to follow the rules and you know how to take turns. That is rules, and what other people say are the very way that your whole sense of self knows what to do and what not to do. It's like it's dictated by the expectations of your environment and the other people around you. And being thrown into the adult world really kind of requires you to be able to start to figure out, well, what do I really think and what do I really need? I've heard so many people say, like in a corporate context, I mean, it'll ask more. It will ask of you indefinitely. It will never be enough. Like there will always be more. Like do more, show up more, be here more, answer more. The emails will never end. You will never get caught up. The projects will never. It's so if you're living by the expectations of the others around you or the environment, then you're absolutely going to burn out. And that's a developmental leap. I think it's kind of the first one that we have to make as adults is to start to figure out, what do I need?
And you won't find out what you need until you find out first what you don't need.
Yep. Yep.
So it's okay to find out what you don't need first.
Yes.
And then start to do a little recon on what is it mean for me to stay healthy in all of the areas as a whole person.
What was your journey from, did you do the achiever thing? What did that look like for you? Going from where am I? What do I need? Oh, that doesn't work. Because then we kind of shift into optimizing. We get that other people have an expectation and I have needs and expectations. And so we're getting a little better at it, but it's almost like we can run over ourselves by trying, or others, by trying to like optimize that process of figuring out where we are and what we need and where other people are and what they need.
I mean, doing it without skill or wisdom or kindness, not being gentle with, this is what I need when I need it now.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the, yeah. So I'm curious kind of how that went for you.
I remember coming home from seminary, and it was for summer break. My sister Sarah and brother Joseph and Benjamin wanted to go on a camping trip with me. And I was all excited because I had been doing all kinds of solo backpacking trips to Big Bend. And so I'm back in Ohio, Indiana area. I took them camping, and we had some friends that had a big piece of property in the woods, and it was dense and it was thick, and we hiked. It was probably 9:00 by the time we got camp set up and everything was good. And I looked at him and said, I'm going to bed. And, here are these preteens.
Yeah, I was just going to ask how old they must have been, like 15.
Or younger.
Yeah.
13, 14, 15.
Wow.
16. They didn't say anything. They just pulled out their sleeping bags and went to bed. And I didn't think about it at the time. And later on, like maybe years later, I had a conversation with my youngest siblings, and they were laughing at the fact that Big Brother comes home to take us out on a camping trip, and then he goes to bed right away. And I looked at him and I'm like, well, I was exhausted from travel, and I also was in a rhythm of going to bed every night at 9 o'clock.
You were in your routine.
And I was getting up in the morning between 3 and 4 a.m. to
good grief.
start my practice.
Oh, yeah.
My morning meditation. And so that was a moment when I was reminded that I have been working on certain spiritual disciplines in my life, and I orient and organize accordingly, and it is not necessarily what is appropriate. And I totally missed that it wasn't appropriate.
Right.
We had a great time the rest of our camp out, but I still was like gone at 9 o'clock at night because I was still waking up at a super early time.
I love that.
Big Brother's a stick in the mud.
Couldn't put away his meditation practice so we can hang out with around the campfire
not
at night.
for Christmas break or summer break. Not at all.
That's funny.
So there was no harm necessarily.
Sure.
And it also was, I was totally disconnected from what was true and ultimately what needed to happen with relationship with my siblings. So needless to say, when I spend time with my siblings, I don't go to bed early just because of that. I make sure I'm the last one to bed.
Yeah.
I need to redeem myself.
Yeah, that's fairly harmless, but that's a great how we miss things in that way.
I was taking care of myself. I had my priorities.
Yeah.
I had another story that I could tell.
Yeah.
The kids were really young, and I think we just had 3 at the time. Someone started coming to our little church. She was kind of a grandmotherly type, very energetic, just wanted to spend as much time with my kids as possible, and volunteered to babysit and come help their mom and all of these things. And she would just randomly show up at our house.
She's trying to be helpful.
She was trying to be helpful. And it just was not helpful. It was disruptive, and she was kind of pushing her way in, and it was disruptive on so many different levels. And so as a pastor, I had to go to this person and say, please do not come to our home unless you call first.
Yeah.
She was so angry. It just was not
She couldn't hack it.
okay. Yeah. So I had already had a conversation with the kid's mom of, she was giving me feedback of what was happening. And I'm like, well, we just need to let her know. Setting a boundary and making that request was not heard in that moment.
Yeah.
And again, there was nothing that I could do to change it.
No, that was her reactivity.
On social media, pop culture, kind of trendy, it's cool to talk about boundaries. It's cool, like we see it and we hear about it, but very few people have training or experience in actually doing it.
It's incredibly hard.
And painful.
And very painful. Well, because like in that woman's reactivity, for a lot of people, like myself, would have, until rather recently, I would not have been able to be direct with her because I would have known that that's how she would react. Did her reaction take you by surprise? Or
No, not at all.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
She was,
Yeah.
personality, she was pushy.
Yeah.
And she had offended several other people in the church. Yeah. So, like, I had already seen
What happened?
kind of
Her MO.
what was going to happen and how this was going to play
Yeah.
out. And I still did what I knew I needed to do for me. And it wasn't like, it was not okay for me to sacrifice.
Oh gosh, no.
My children and their mom, you know, and our sanity and peace in our home, etc. And that is, I think, the value. When we understand the value of our boundaries, then there's a willingness to enter into the arena, if you will, and be ready to fight it out.
Well, yeah, I guess for those of us who grew up feeling as though everything is your fault or that you're bad for making somebody else, for quote unquote, making somebody else feel bad. If you got the message that you made me feel bad, it's like, no, you're responsible for your reactivity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I imagine in that woman's experience, you know, she thought you did this horrible thing and you made her feel a particular way. It's like, no, she's reacting to something else that doesn't have anything to do with you because your request is incredibly, it's common sense. Like that's,
common sense. And it was kind, and I wasn't angry or mean or this is what's best for us and our family at this time. Would you please in the future do X, Y, and Z? And
she couldn't hack it.
That was not accepted.
And so then there's also, I guess, there's the developmental piece, and then there's also the what do we have from our early years, like where we got maybe some modeling and a template that didn't give us the best way to make sense of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so if we've got, I mean, obviously she was trying to fill a deep need that you guys could never have filled. It just wouldn't have been appropriate.
Mm-mm.
And so when we have those kinds of wounds, that just makes the whole boundary conversation that much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so if we continue though the developmental piece, when we start to have like much more subtle awareness of like, here's where I am and here's where this other person is, and then here's what the situation is calling for and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Like we're aware of the way that I influence you and you influence me. Like we're aware of this kind of reciprocal, subjective thing that's happening between us and between everything else that's going on around us. Then I think boundaries, when I am strong in my independence and you are strong in your independence, and we're also aware of all of those other contextual, subtle things, then I am me because of you. And not in a codependent way, but in a interdependent way. Mm-hmm. And then some really beautiful things happen. Mm-hmm. And so I think I feel curious, when and how did that happen for you?
So here's a definition of interdependence that I really like.
Okay.
It is the mature capacity to remain fully oneself while being meaningfully connected to others in mutual exchange. Mm-hmm. It's not independence. Mm-hmm. It's not dependence. It is relational maturity. I was having a conversation with a friend recently who made the statement, they don't like being in a position where they have to depend on other people. And it was, the context was in a relational way, within the context of friends. Mm-hmm. And their sense of well-being or belonging is based on how their friends make time for them or respond to them, or the depth or the level of connection. And it takes a lot of time and experience, and sometimes finding somebody who is, this is not something I tell people, you're more mature than me. Not necessarily appreciated when somebody walks into a situation and is like, you're more mature than I am. It's like, what do you, that's an insult. Don't say I'm old.
I was wondering why. I'm like, actually, It's kind of a nice thing to say.
My experience has been that in order to step out of that lack of maturity and inability to have interdependence only comes when I have somebody who is a little bit further down the path and can model for me what that feels like and what that experience is, which is not sexy or trendy because the influencers are all younger and trying to stay younger and younger and younger. And that's who is supposed to be getting all of our eyeballs. But the reality is interdependence can only come when there is pretty close level of maturity and someone who has good boundaries, good sense of self, understands grounding, and isn't going to give up their self-expression or what their truth is in connection with someone else. And that's something that only takes time and experience working out. So interdependence is, I have lots of people that I work with and I trust them. They trust me. They know what my lane requires and I know what their lane requires. And it's one of the benefits of being on a team is I get to work with hospice social workers and aides and nurses and doctors, CNAs, and other spiritual care and grief counselors. And there is just a confidence after you've worked with someone who understands the whole, but is able to focus on their piece of the pie that is very important for the whole to function the way it needs to. And that only comes from people that have worked in their field of expertise for a long time. And maybe we could even say they're experts.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So interdependence is a challenge. What does that bring up for you when you think of your experience with interdependence?
Well, it doesn't work without accountability.
And that would be the whole and the pieces of the pie in the way I described it.
Yeah. Because otherwise, like I definitely got lost in the goo of, I would have thought it was interdependence. You know, when I kind of broke into that layer of development and was like, I was aware of what was going on in me and I was aware of what was going on in them. And I could, you know, and the we space, so to say, and all the historical blah, blah, blah. I mean, you know, tracking all of the subtle things, and all of that was great. And nobody wanted it ever any limits. A limit or a restriction felt a violation. Like it was just, no, everything should be allowed and every expression is beautiful and all is welcome. And that is, I mean, I that's just how I learned what interdependence means. It is an expression of interdependence, but it lacks accountability. And so I guess I'm really grateful for, you know, then without the accountability, it just will quickly devolve into codependence and toxicity, and there's a whole lot of yuck that comes up. And so that accountability piece is crucial to making sure that there is a container for the interdependence to thrive in, because otherwise it's like a snake eating its own tail. I mean, it just consumes, and there's drama, and it's too much. It's just,
it can be challenging to have boundaries when there are no absolutes.
yeah, like what does it mean to say everyone is welcome and every opinion is valid and all emotions are welcome and every expression is beautiful? Like, there is a layer at which that is all true, and you need structure. Like, you need, whether or not a person intended to cause harm was caused. Like, there something happened, or it didn't turn out the way that, you know, we intended it to. And so then there's a consequence. Like, you can't get rid of like cause and effect, essentially.
So there's a tension between legalism, rules must be followed regardless of the consequences, and moral relativism. Anything goes.
Yep.
Morality is purely subjective.
Yep.
And so maybe we could say that the middle way is situational ethics.
Yes.
Which Joseph Fletcher defined in his book of the same title back in 1966, that love is the only absolute. Rules are guidelines. Context determines application. Which I had a professor who absolutely hated the idea of there being a middle way.
Oh, sure.
He would quote Latin all the time. There is no tertium quid.
What does that mean?
No third way, no third option. It's only
there's only right and wrong. Yeah.
Good and evil. Heaven and hell.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough leap to make, and it's very painful to go from that space into one where, well, it depends.
So coming to that middle way, and last time we talked about the pendulum swinging back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
There are 3 questions that I like to ask in my experience when I'm trying to navigate boundaries, and being someone who grew up in a hardcore right and wrong legalistic view, where anything other than what is black and white in the Bible is anathema, evil, going to take you straight to the hell.
Yes.
So this is one question that I like to ask. What is the most loving action here? What is the most loving action? So it's not what's right and what's wrong. It's what is a loving action? What serves human flourishment in this moment? And it has to start with my flourishment. At the core of my service, of my benevolence, of my giving, there has to be something regenerative. Like, I have to feel that sense of pride and joy and love and the good feeling that we get from helping.
It's got to be filling your cup in some kind of way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then what reduces harm is the last question that I like to ask. And that those 3 questions help me navigate that space of, am I moving way out towards hedonism and whatever feels good is what I'm going to do? Or am I getting rigid and hardcore good versus evil kind of a perspective of life? Can I just come to a place of saying, what is the most loving action here? What serves human flourishing in this moment, and what reduces harm?
Want me to tell a story that exemplifies the horrors of moral relativism?
Sure. Yeah.
You've heard it, but our audience has not. So,
buckle your seat belts, folks. Strap in.
My former Burning Man-esque community, love and light beings that they are. So I offer this story not as a way to throw shade, but actually as a way to shine a light. To say, I can honor the beauty and the good intentions, but the lack of wisdom can take people to places that, you know, if you just like read about it in black and white would be, you know, your jaw would drop to the floor. So I had a friend over recently. I've known her for a long, long time. And I left the community, but she kind of went even deeper into it. You know, and she's going through a really incredible journey of her own. And she's just updating me on whatever the latest. She's spilling the tea. She's telling me about, I think she likes to tell me about the drama. At one of the get-togethers, one of the men in the community was accused of sexual assault. Actually, the woman used the word rape. And I was not surprised in the least. I know this man. It's not the first time he's been accused of sexual assault. I've seen him sexually assault somebody right before my eyes. And I know this community's history with how they deal with things like this. And as I'm listening to her tell the story, I'm just like, oh, internally I'm thinking to myself, oh God, nothing's changed. It's all still the same shit show. So they're saying, well, I don't know if it's okay to use the word rape because culturally that word just carries so much baggage. And so maybe we shouldn't use that word, which is what happened to me as well. I got told, well, that's too strong of a word. Maybe we should reconsider because Then they're also wondering if maybe spiritually, if it's more harmful for a woman to be raped by a man because it's a penetrative act versus a man being raped by a woman, which I don't even know why that's part of the story, but like it was part of what came out of her mouth. And so I can just, the navel gazing and the like, well, but we don't want to hurt anybody. Like in this moment, she's feeling sorry for the man who has committed a sexual assault against somebody else, which is exactly what happened every single time I was in that space before. And so to me, it's just like this perfect example of how when you're in a space where every expression is allowed and everything should be okay, and people are not comfortable with any limit on that.
No boundaries.
No boundaries. No boundaries. Boundaries are bad. Hierarchy is bad. Boundary is bad. Everything should all be equal. Everything should be allowed. It's all beautiful. And then you get this. And this is why sexual abuse is just kind of rampant in these spaces, because nobody has a sense of, because they're coming from an allergy out of their prior life experiences where there was too rigid of a right and a wrong and a black and a white and a good and a bad. And so they're like overcorrecting for it. And, you know, developmentally, I get it, but holy fucking shit, it permits rape. It like just makes it all okay. Maybe we shouldn't use that word. It's kind of a strong word. So anyway, I am, that's an extreme example, but it also happens in like corporations. It happens in families. It happens in, you know, just like friendships, sports teams. Like there's a way in which it'll show up in more subtle kinds of ways. And so learning what does it mean to say yes and to be open and to come from a place of love and understanding and compassion while also having a very firm no and the ability to say that's not okay is another big shift that kind of happens in our experience of boundaries. That is, I mean, it's its own whole new crisis and kind of death process and, you know, dark night of the soul, maybe. It's a hard one to learn too.
I have all kinds of reaction to that story that you just told me.
I know.
So
I know.
my sense of right and wrong around that is super crisp and clear. And so I am glad that I do not know and I was not present for that, because I would have been forcing that individual to face some things that would be very uncomfortable, because I would have said some things that were very uncomfortable. Let me default to Jesus here in this moment.
That's great. Yes, please.
Ugh. Let your yes be yes and your no, no.
Yeah.
And in the context of our experience as humans on this earth, we are not necessarily taught yes and no.
We're taught other people's yes and no.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
So there was a moment when my daughter, I think she had turned maybe 10 or 11. And I realized that no one was going to teach her consent unless I taught her consent.
Bravo, Dad.
And I started to ask her every time I went to give her a hug.
Yeah.
Of course, she always said yes.
Sure.
And it was important to model for her that sense of, you have autonomy over your body, and no one can just give you a hug. Like, you have the right to say no in that moment. And no one else was going to teach her that. And that is, in a pluralistic culture where anything and everything goes, there is no clean and crisp yes or no. And because of that, we have all kinds of unhealth in our experience.
Well, and what's interesting is, it's funny, that culture, or that community, is actually what taught me about exactly what you did with your daughter. And so it's interesting how there is that practice. You know, it is a norm in that group that you are asked, "Are you open to a hug?" And then, it's not, "Are you open to a hug while I'm moving closer to you and almost giving you a hug?" It's a genuine, I am standing back and I'm not going to shift in any way until you've given me a clear answer. But then, so it's strange how there is that norm and yet not the clear understanding that when a woman says she's been sexually assaulted and she, of course, there's almost always nuances, but there is a very clear, I think where people get confused, I'm imagining, is, well, that's not what he intended. For him, it wasn't rape. For him, it wasn't sexual assault. He wouldn't hurt a fly. Why? So therefore, she must be perceiving something. She must be reacting. This must be a trauma, blah, 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 blah. And so there's this way in which it just gets really muddy and so that clear yes and that clear no, just, they don't know how to relate to it. And to be quite honest, I'm still figuring out how. Because when you come at me with your very clear yes and no, my whole nervous system sometimes is just like, what the fuck is happening? And I have to just feel that energy and then figure out how to put it, because my entire life, the only time I've gotten a clear yes and a clear no is when it was controlling or domineering.
Angry or mean.
Yes.
Or vengeful or, yeah.
Yep. And so you are one of the very few people I have ever known in my life who has a clear yes and a clear no that is also compassionate and loving. And that, it's almost like my nervous system is still learning what that even means and how to not get over. Sometimes it's very overwhelming for me because I think that you're rejecting me or the person that I care about. Sometimes I've watched you, you've set boundaries with people that I love, and it feels like now I'm having to choose between you and between this other person that I love. And it's so, but I know that that's not what you're asking me. And so like, I have to kind of really, it's a huge stretch to get there. I mean, I'm super grateful for it, but wow, is it hard.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And if I love someone, like genuinely want their best,
Yeah.
then I am not going to put them in a position where they might feel forced into something. Mm-hmm. Consent is huge.
Oh.
When I was dating as a 40-something-year-old, divorced, the idea that I wouldn't have a conversation with someone before we had sex about when were they last tested, what kind of contraception are we going to use, what are things that feel good or don't feel good in the context of what is our context of having this interaction.
Yeah. What does this mean for us?
Absolutely. All of those were conversations that I would initiate because it was important for me to not have any ambiguity in that space. Yeah. And it wasn't that I was choreographing. It was, hey, we're moving forward. What is your position right now? And let's have some conversations. And I had people respond to me like, I have never had someone ask when I was last tested for sexually transmitted anything.
Yeah.
And people were just shocked. And I'm like, well, I take my sexual health super serious, and I would share my history and what it feels like to be surprised when a partner is not honoring covenant and commitment and a life together. So the idea of putting someone in a position where the accusation can even be conceived just doesn't make any sense to my way of, this is not loving.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't say that as in a judgmental way. I'm just like,
right.
It's my responsibility to be honest about what I feel is right and true within the context of sex, because there's a whole lot of baggage that we all as humans carry around sex.
Oh boy.
Like, it's super intense.
Well, and I think the ability, the courage to have that conversation speaks to your clear-cut to the health of your boundaries on the inside. And I imagine for you, it doesn't feel courageous. I imagine for you, it just flows very naturally. Like, of course, this is what we would do. And I can find within myself the way that would be a hard conversation for me, certainly, like, let's say 5 years ago, because I think when the way that you orient is predicated on what is the other person, I'm going to respond based on what I think the other person wants or needs, or, we do that codependent thing, then, or I'm acting or being in a way based on how I think you're perceiving me, then those kind of conversations are real hard. And that's why they don't happen. This is why we got to do our work. All
right, this one's free, brothers. If you're dating someone, before you have sex with them, text them, hey, I think you're super hot, and I would love to take this to the next level. Are you open to having a conversation about sex?
Yep.
And that's all you have to do.
Yep.
And then make sure you have recently been tested for STDs and eyes, and make sure you have contraceptives and whatever else.
Yeah, and are you clear? Like, is this just a one-night stand?
Is this long term?
Yeah.
So,
what are you looking for?
Yeah.
What's your kinks?
Yep.
If you want to talk about that.
Yep. All of that's good stuff to talk about.
Yeah. What do you like? What do you not like?
Before you get there.
Yes. Yes.
Not when both of you are under the influence and inebriated.
No. And
Then have
and
that
swept
conversation.
up in the, the hot and heavy and the hormones are, that is.
God, no. No.
Well, and quite frankly, this should be the thing that we're teaching our kids in school, but our country is weird about sex.
Yep.
It's unfortunate.
Thanks for tuning in to the Love Hour with Ryan and Allison, where we give you sex advice.
Oh, boy.
Boundaries. So, intimate relationships,
Yeah.
work, neighbors. Like, we have good neighbors and we try to be good neighbors. There are certain things that we do, like mowing our grass, that is a way of taking care of, this is my space and my responsibility, and that's yours over there, and so I'm going to let you take care of it. And these are ways that we live in a civil society.
Yeah.
And work at getting along.
Well, and there's also that interdependence piece of this neighborhood that we all live in looks nice because I do my part and you do your part. And then collectively, we can all have a nice space.
I'm curious in all of your psychology wisdom, what does it mean when someone starts to feel the experience of the internal, maybe we could say sacred world? And that starts to take shape.
Yeah.
And there is a sense of, this is my spiritual practice, or this is my way of being in the world with a higher power, or a source that is greater than I am. What does that fit into? How does that fit into the psychological models?
Oh. So I think that's the, from a Maslow's hierarchy, that's the self-actualization piece. From a developmental perspective, O'Fallon and Keegan and all of them, that's the self-transforming. In the Keegan language, that's integral. Well, it starts earlier. It starts at 4.5 or so, 4.0, 4.5. So that I think is an expression of, we are not just, so the idea that like I am Allison is kind of absurd. So, for example, in a very practical, physical, mundane way, there are more strands of DNA from a mass perspective. Most of my body is not my DNA. It's actually bacteria and virus. And mitochondria, for example, are not even, they're viral interjection into each of our cells. The powerhouse of our cells, every single little cell in our body is a virus that's like performing this super important function. And then of course there's the recognition that there's not actually a boundary. I mean, there is a boundary in that, like, I do have a skin barrier, but it's permeable. So it's kind of a boundary, but it's not 100% a solid boundary. Like, things pass through. And obviously I have a nose and I inhale the outside world and I exhale my own CO2. And I am who I am because of all of the experiences that I've had in my life. It's not like yes, of course I was born, I suppose, with some unique kind of template that was me. But then, of course, all of that was so deeply shaped by, that's the nature versus nurture thing. So from a psychological perspective, we become a self. We grow and we figure out like who we are. And then it starts to kind of not fall apart. Well, it does kind of fall apart, actually. I don't know anybody for whom that transition is like just la la land. That doesn't exist. It's actually very painful. And so we then notice that there is a whole nother world in a way, and we're influenced by it. And it may be, I mean, depending on your philosophy or your spiritual bucket that you come from, there's all we make meaning in that space in a lot of different ways. But of course, as we've said on this podcast before, eventually it's all saying the same thing, just using different language. And so then I guess I just see it as a very natural psychological progression. And we as humans have created dozens and dozens of really beautiful practices that then can hone if you learn how to play the piano, for example, like you go through your scales, and then you learn music theory, and you get more and more refined, and in that you grow your understanding and your skill level. And then like the world of music becomes, you go from chopsticks to Chopin. And so spiritually, it's the same thing. I remember when I first started meditating and I sat down and I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, I close my eyes. It's dark. It's boring. What? There's nothing here. What are they talking about? It just seemed like the most absurd thing in the world. But of course, you sit there long enough and it's a whole universe, and it'll take you to other dimensions. And so I think that's how psychologically, it is the very natural progression that takes us beyond ourselves. Because of course we're not actually, we are a self, but that's not all we are. And then we get to go through that very confusing experience of figuring out what the fuck that means. Yeah.
Thank you.
So how would you say somebody develops healthy boundaries or healthier boundaries? Do you have a particular practice, or what do you think that looks like for folks?
So boundaries are ethereal.
Yeah.
Like it's all in your head.
Yep.
And it also is translated into our bodies, our felt sense of safety or belonging or well-being. So I find it helpful to take it out of the ethereal, just kind of the airy-fairy in the clouds kind of a idea, and to make it concrete. And so there are a couple different ways. The first thing that I like to do is make a list and just have two categories. My responsibility, not my responsibility.
I love that.
Lists are great for so many different things.
Yeah.
So this is my responsibility. This is not my responsibility. The other morning, as I was getting ready for work, I was running behind, and I realized that the dishwasher was full of clean dishes. And my plate from breakfast, that as I am getting ready to run out the door, I hate putting it on the counter dirty or in the sink. That just is not acceptable in my world. It needs to go in the dishwasher. And in that moment, I had to click through, it is my responsibility to get to work on time today. And it is my responsibility to follow the speed limit. And it is my responsibility to be cool, calm, collective, and grounded at work today.
Yeah.
Therefore, I will empty the clean dishes out of the dishwasher when I get home later today. And I left that plate, which in my experience is, it's not a venial sin. It is a mortal sin that will send me straight to the pits of hell. Thank you, Mama. And I appreciate having that sense of right and wrong, or what is appropriate.
Yeah.
There And I watch my kids, they're not as intense, but they'll have that same, we clear the table when we're done with a meal.
Yep.
And where do we put? And they'll ask.
Yep.
And so those are good things that we are trained in, and it can become unhealthy if I would have allowed the sense that I have to empty the dishwasher right now, and then the rest of the day I was pissed off because I was late and I was off my game and had a bad attitude.
Yeah.
Things are so subtle
Yeah.
in the way that we are influenced by our circumstances and the things that we, in a moment, take as this is the only reality that is a part of my experience. So lists are helpful. Is it my responsibility to, as your partner and co-dishwasher and clean dish putter aware, is it my responsibility to always put the dishes away? No. And it's okay when that boundary needs to move into shift.
Oh, absolutely.
Making a list. These are my responsibilities. And it can be in a relationship. It can be house chores. It can be at work with a project that you're working on. Just make a simple list of, this is my responsibility. This is not my responsibility.
Yep.
Now, if you're a certain type of person, and you will know who you are when I say this, you may need to have a third category on your piece of paper. My responsibility, not my responsibility, and then no man's land.
Oh.
Like, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure whose responsibility this is. I
misunderstood what you meant by that at first. Okay. So like the kind of maybe not.
Maybe nebulous. It may be
sure.
kind of a little bit gray. It's not it's not super clear. That also can hold the things that you're like, I'm not ready to make a decision.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to say this is my responsibility or this is not my responsibility.
Yeah.
So that third category can hold all of the, it's complicated stuff that comes up.
Or it depends.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely situational ethics when it comes to emptying the dishwasher. So that would be the first practice.
Okay. I like that.
Pretty simple, straightforward. The second is to go out in nature and just notice all of the boundaries in nature. Have you ever sat in front of a tree and just looked at the bark? Bark is there to protect and to keep on the inside what is vulnerable and needs to be kept on the inside of the tree. And that boundary is important. And so just to notice that boundary. There are countless other little examples, pictures, ways to connect through nature to the sense of boundaries and what is going to be giving us health or what might be toxic and unhealthy in our experience.
Yeah, the birds of the forest would be groggy if they stayed up too late. You know? They wouldn't be there to sing their morning songs right when the sun rose.
No, not at all.
It's like I get to bed on time. So we thought it'd be good to end with, it's more of a contemplation than it is a meditation. A way to just ask yourself a series of questions and just feel where you're at and what comes up, what emotions arise, what body sensations arise, what thoughts and ideas arise, just so you can kind of find where you are in this landscape of boundaries, because it's a pretty big map and it's subtle and it's, well, like you said, there's no man's land. And that's okay. Like, that bucket is absolutely a valid one to have. Nobody's got all of the answers all of the time when it comes to boundaries. And because boundaries are not just ideas that live in our head. They are our lived experience. None of us have boundary clarity absolutely everywhere. Sometimes we're really strong in one area. Like maybe we've got great boundaries with our family and then terrible ones at work. Let's just think about, is there somewhere in our life where maybe things aren't as clear as they could be? And I like this question. So if you take nothing else away from this whole conversation, the thing to take away is what is mine and what is not mine. So what is my feeling versus the other person's feelings? What is my responsibility versus the other person's? What is my work to do versus another person's work to do? And we can also notice that boundaries are not global. They're not, this is the answer for all of the situations and all of the people. They are much more contextual. And so this is where we start to notice we have stronger boundaries in one area, but not necessarily in another. So maybe we can think about the different domains where we have different kinds of boundaries. We've got family, we have close partnerships, our close intimate relationships, we have our friendships, we have work, we've got community space or church space, and then there's also the boundary that we have with ourselves. And so think about all of those different domains in your life and where are your boundaries super clear and easier, and where are they maybe a little messy, a little confusing. And as you reflect, you might notice one of a few different kinds of patterns showing up. So maybe in some areas, our boundaries are maybe too open, like we lean in too close. We say yes when we mean no. We feel responsible for other people's feelings. We leave interactions with other people feeling drained or maybe a little resentful. And so our growth edge in that space might be to work on learning that it's okay to have a self. It's okay to have a preference and a need and to take a stand for it. And then in other places, you might be too rigid, you might be closed. And so you might notice that you're staying too far away. You don't let people in very easily. You think you need to rely only on yourself, or it feels really uncomfortable to rely on other people. And so you just keep this emotional distance, even in closer relationships. And so your growth edge then might be to work on letting connection soften those rigid boundaries a little bit. And then there's also this conflict avoidant, or maybe collapsing into compassion sort of way of orienting. So maybe you understand everybody so well that you struggle to hold a line. You see the trauma that they're coming from, you see the context, you can feel the pain, but accountability becomes really hard or impossible to enforce and to sustain. And so your growth edge might be, how do I pair compassion with consequence? Or you might notice your boundaries are revolving around performance. So maybe they're really achievement driven. You are all about productivity and efficiency, and you protect your time. Your time is very valuable because you are a very busy person, but maybe you are not protecting your heart. And so your growth edge might be to find some deeper humanity, some emotionality in spaces where you're operating. And if you're not sure where your boundaries are, your body absolutely knows. So I want you to think of a recent time when you said yes, but you meant no. What does that feel like in your chest, your gut, in your throat? Boundary awareness often begins in the sensations that we feel in our body before it ever reaches language and thought. And boundaries are not only external. Some of us struggle to hold boundaries internally. So sometimes we've got maybe a hypercritical inner voice in our head that is always telling us terrible thing. Maybe we have a part of us that is always wanting to please other people. And so we also know that healthy boundaries means that the inner critic does not get to stomp all over our inner world, and that we don't always need to take care of other people. That can't run our whole life either. So however your boundaries are showing up, whether they're kind of open and diffuse, whether they're too rigid, whether they're somewhere in between, none of this is about failing or winning. This is all just a developmental process that we are all going through, and we all have inherited boundary patterns and lessons from all of the systems that we grew up in: family, culture, society, corporate, friendships. And so maybe the most useful question is not, do I have good boundaries? But maybe it's something more like, what boundary in my life do I need to grow and expand right now? And so remember that boundaries are not about keeping people out. They're about knowing where you are, where you end, and where someone else begins. They're what allows love to stay love without it turning into obligation or resentment or control.
I will amen that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
They're kind of everywhere. Boundaries are just, there's no space where they are not.
It's a little scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
Find the boundaries.
Yeah. Well, thank you all.
Absolutely. On that note,
Yes.
join us for the circle,
Yes.
our gathering, where we'll be talking about boundaries.
Yes, we will.
Coming up here.
Yep.
And we'd love to hear your stories and experience, and we'll continue to unfold this beautiful gift as a human in this incarnation, as we say yes and we also say no in a very clean and crisp way that gives definition to who we are and what our purpose is in this experience.
Yep. It's wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye for now.
See you next time.